Alright, for the first method of finishing the end of your keychain, I am going to use a macrame square knot. So ideally these pieces would be a little bit longer, so I just chose two that I thought was going to be long enough to demonstrate this. So you can pin it down to a clipboard or a piece of foam or something like that to keep it from moving. So you're going to take and make a loop on either side. This is kind of like learning how to tie your shoes. So the one on the left I'm going to put under all of these, and the one on the right I'm going to put over. So this one is going to go down through that hole, and this one is going to come up through that hole. Alright, so watch this knot right here. So this one's going to form a knot on the left, right there. So if you lose your place, because we're going to go from left to right, if you walk away, you can come back and say, oh, there's my knot, so I know this one needs to go under, and this one needs to go over. So this one will go down, and this one will come up because it's on the bottom, so it needs to come up. So now the knot is on the right. Do that one more time. There's my knot, so I know this one needs to go under, and this one needs to go over. So down, and then up. So usually you only need to go just a 1/4 inch or so, but you can make this really decorative and go as far as you want it to go. So for the next two methods of finishing the end, you're going to need a sharp needle that's pretty sturdy and some heavy thread. You can double some regular sewing thread if you want to, and I thought I would have a red or something that you could see better on camera, but I don't have anything but neutral colors, so I'm just going to cut a length of this thread and thread up. You don't need a knot. And so I'm going to just pick an area that is not falling apart, and that's going to be my good part that I want to save. So I'm just going to pull the thread through till it's almost all the way through. And those fringe pieces are going to make you crazy, so if you want to, you can put those on the left. And so where my thread is coming out over here, I'm going to go back in. It doesn't have to be the same hole. We're just going to go back and forth, and the thread I'm using does tangle up really badly, so hopefully I can get through this video without it tangling up on me. So I'm just going to go back and forth, and I feel a knot there. And when I feel that it's not slipping anymore, see, that's pretty tight. Now I can start wrapping. So I can just lay my needle down if I need to and just start wrapping really tightly. And you don't need to go very far with this. This is just to bind up the end because we're going to cover all this up. You don't need to worry about the color of the thread. We're just binding the end so that these threads don't slip out. So once I get it bound as well as I think it should be, I'm just going to go back in with my needle to secure that and go back and forth just like we did at the beginning. Okay, so once I've got it secure and it's not slipping at all, I don't have to tie a knot or anything. You can if you want to. I'm just going to clip that close. Clip both of them close. And then you take just any kind of glue. I like this fast drying tacky glue. Aleene's tacky, Scotch tacky. This is something that came from Dollar Tree, I think, or Dollar General. And I'm just going to dot some glue all the way around, and I'm going to try not to get any glue on the braid itself. So I'm not really squeezing the bottle. I'm just kind of dotting it on there. And we'll let that soak in and dry for a couple of minutes, and then we'll be ready to do the two remaining techniques. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this one the same as I did this one, and then when they're about dry, I will come back. So what we need to do now is hide this little wrap that we did with thread. It's not very pretty, so we need to hide it with a matching cord. You can use anything to wrap with, but most of the time you're going to be choosing a cord that matches, or a leftover piece of cord that matches this. But I'm going to be using this bright red so that you can see it. So what you want to do is tie a knot on one end of this so that if you're using one of these colors, you're not going to be able to see this very well, and we need to know which one to pull on. So this one's easy to see because it's red, but you might not be able to tell on yours. So just tie a little knot, and that'll be a reminder to you which one to pull later on. So what we're going to do is make a little loop like that, and we're going to pinch it next to where we did our little thread wrap. So we're going to lay this little short end with the knot in it along with our fringe. So I'm going to keep this pinched right here close to where I want to start wrapping, and then I'm going to take this long end and I'm going to wrap completely around, leaving this as part of the fringe. So I'm just going to wrap it neatly going toward the right, away from my thumb. And once I've covered up everything that I want to cover up, I'm going to start wrapping back over in the direction back toward where I started. And once I get there, I'm just going to switch hands. I'm going to pinch it so it doesn't come unwrapped, and just get reoriented here. And I'm going to go back this way. And then I'm going to take this long tail, and hopefully this shows well enough on the camera. You can put the loop down or up through the tail, up or down through that loop. It doesn't matter which direction you go. And just keep on pinching here, and we're going to close up that loop and grab this long tail in the process. So I'm just going to take this little knotted end that I reserved, and I'm going to start pulling till I can feel it go underneath my thumb. So now I can kind of let go of the wrap a little bit, but I need to pull that loop closed, so I may have to wiggle both ends, but I want to make sure that's been pulled in but beneath my thumb here. So when you pull on it, you can kind of feel that loop getting pulled down into the rest of this. So in order to neaten this up a little bit more, you can pull on both of these, and that's going to tighten it even further. So sometimes I'll pull on one and then the other, and then when I think I've got everything underneath this wrap, mainly the loop that we left behind needs to be pulled a little bit into that wrap. Once I feel like it's tight and secure, I'll cut this long tail off really close. This one can be part of your fringe, so I'll usually just trim it close to the rest so it stays in there with the rest of your fringe. And so that's the yarn wrap method. So I'm going to show you the wire wrap method next. Another method is to use this artistic wire. This is 16 gauge aluminum. Anything that's easy to bend and coil you can use. It's pretty easy to work with, and it makes a really cute finish for these. So I've got a few of these that I've made. Some are too big. One of them will probably be the right size. But what you want to do is take a dowel that is pretty close to the diameter of the end of this braid here. You don't want it too big, because I had made this one for another project and it turned out too big. There was no way I was going to glue it on there neatly. You also need some kind of a glue that you can glue metal with, and E6000 is good, but it takes a really long time to dry, so I'm not going to be using any of that today. I just want to show you how to make these little coils and how to use them with your braid. So to make the coil, find a dowel that is close to the size that you need it to be. Smaller is better than bigger if you don't have the perfect size dowel. I went to Walmart and I found a pack of dowels that had several different sizes in it. So anything you've got, a pencil, whatever you think that will work, you can use that. Skewers work well also. Alright, so to make the coil, you'll need some wire cutters and just some pliers, maybe not. So I'll just start pretty close to the end of the coil or the wire, and I'll start bending that over and turning and placing the coils close together. I don't want my spool like this because the wire will get, it's not going to be as neat. So you notice the first coil is kind of bad, but we can cut off any that doesn't look right. So I'll usually make this a little bit wider than I need. So I'm going to just measure it up to my braid, and if that's what I want, then I'll take my wire cutters and then just cut it. And then you just slip it off. Now I have tried taking this wire and just wrapping it around the braid. I can never get as neat as these. Now these do take a little bit of finagling to get it onto the braid, but I think this is one that I've already made that looks to be a better size. So I don't worry about these little cut ends. We're going to tuck those in later. So I'm not going to be able to get all these cords into this braid all at once because it'll break my dental floss threader. So you can figure out the best way to get your braids or your cords onto your coil, but we need to thread them all through there. So I'm just going to do half of them at one time and then do that one more time. Didn't take too long, but you want this little coil to be snug, so if they went in too easily, then your coil is probably too big. Just do the best you can. If you don't have any dental floss threaders, you can get some heavy thread and pull it through that way, or some fishing line or something like that. Alright, so I've got the coil on there, and I think I have all of my cords ready. I can just slide this up. I hope I'm staying on the camera. I slide it up past where I want it to go, and I get my E6000, and I very neatly, without getting glue all over the place, just put enough glue around that thread wrap, and then we'll slowly, you don't want to put too much glue because it'll just squish out everywhere, and then just slowly just wiggle your coil over the glue. And if the glue starts squishing out, you can take a toothpick and clean it up as you go. You don't want to let it just keep squishing. So once I get the coil where I want it, I can take some pliers, and this wire is so easy to bend. I just tuck those, I can even do it with my fingernail, just tuck those little sharp ends under, just like that. And so you've got a nice neat little coil to finish off your keychain. Alright, so that's the three methods that I like to use for finishing the end of a keychain. There's all kinds of things you can do with large beads, and just do a search on YouTube or Pinterest and you'll find all kinds of ways to finish these kumihimo braids.